navigation in React.js, or more specifically, if you are using TanStack as your routing system within a React app, how do you perform navigation? Now, this isn't necessarily only specific to TanStack, as we're going to go through this and you're going to see, like, if you have any familiarity with React Router DOM or using Next.js, all of these are very similar methods to add navigation throughout your apps, whether it's adding links, it's using a navigation hook or a navigation component. All of this is going to be transferable to whatever routing system you use. But today I'm going to show you how to do all this in TanStack. Now, I'm not going to go into every single little detail of all these different components. That's kind of what these docs are for, but this should be a really nice overview of how to use these different things. So basically, within TanStack and within a lot of navigation systems, you're going to have a few out-of-the-box things that you can use for navigation. So one of those things here is a link component. So in TanStack, this generates an actual A tag with a valid href, which can be clicked or command clicked and open a new tab. And it works just like kind of an A tag would that you would use in just basic HTML. So you can add links. And then also you have a useNavigate hook. So it says, when possible, the link component should be used for navigation, but sometimes you need to navigate imperatively. So that's like the fancy term for saying, like, when a user clicks on a button or when you finish an API request, you want to programmatically send a user to a certain path, then you use something like a useNavigate hook. And it says as a result of a side effect. So like I said, finishing a net request or something like that. And it mentions the useNavigate hook returns a function that can be called to perform an immediate client-side navigation. And then you also have a navigate component. It renders nothing and performs an immediate client-side navigation. And then you have router.navigate, which is actually the same as useNavigate, but you can just use it everywhere you have access to your router. So you have better access to router.navigate compared to useNavigate. So I'll probably default to just using useNavigate, but then when you can't use that because it's outside of where you have access to it, then try to use router.navigate. So that's kind of a rough overview, but now let's kind of get started with just like a basic demo application and kind of go through a few of these here. So we're going to start with the link component here and kind of how it works. As you can see, we basically just need to import it from TanStack router and then add a to path to this link, and that will link to this path. So what we're going to do here is I have created a starter project here, and this is just a basic TanStack starter project. So I have basically installed TanStack. It is a Vite React project, so React plus Vite, and that's going to help us generate our routes and stuff. So what I want you to do is clone this. So copy this to your clipboard if you want to do this tutorial alongside me, which I would recommend, and then go over to your code editor of choice. I'm over here in VS Code, and then you're going to run git clone and then clone into this project. And then after you clone into it within your terminal, make sure to run npm install to install all of our packages here from this package.json, and make sure that you are within the project. So you should see within your code editor, the open project should be the cloned project from my GitHub, and it should say nav starter. So then within your nav starter directory, make sure to run npm install to install this package.json dependencies. And then what we're going to do is run npm run dev. And then this is going to basically get our project running on localhost 5173, or at least that's what it is for me. So if I click on this, you can see I have our active project right now, and it is a super straightforward project to where it just has a basic configuration of file-based routing using TanStack, in which we have our kind of home route here, our index route, an about route, a settings route, and then we have a dynamic blog route, so we can show some dynamic linking and stuff. You should now have that all in place here to kind of get started. So first off, for this link component, let's actually just do this exact thing right here. So let's go to our home page. And right now it just says welcome home. This is what you should see if you are at just our root page here, welcome home. But let's add a link to our about page, because right now you can see that we can go to about and it says hello from about, and we can go to settings, hello from settings, and so on and so forth. But that's a pretty not great user experience unless, I don't know, you're trying to be sneaky about something, which wouldn't make any sense in pretty much any application of all time, but not to speak in absolutes or anything. But what we're going to do here is add a link to welcome home so you can navigate to the about page. So let's go ahead and let's just go right here. I'm going to use a link, and it's going to import this from TanStack /React router. In case you're wondering, I'm using the theme winter is coming for VS Code here. So I have a link here. It's going to just say, let's say go to about, and then all we need to do is add a prop here that is a to path. And then this is going to be a relative path to our about page. And then let's do another one here, and I'm going to do Option Shift down arrow, and let's do our settings page here, settings, and then this is going to say go to settings. I'm going to go Command S, save that, come back, and we see some two beautifully styled links here. I can probably separate these a little bit. I don't know. I can probably add just like a quick and dirty style prop here, and we can add like margin left of 10 pixels so it doesn't look so gross. So yeah, this looks wonderful. So now we're going to go to the go to about page, and you see it navigates us to this about page. Let's go back home here, and then we'll go to our settings page. So very straightforward how links work in TanStack, very similar to using the links in other kind of routing systems. Now, you can also use dynamic links here. So for dynamic links, that's basically saying like, okay, in our application right now, we have a blog folder that has a dynamic page in it that's index.jsx. And this expects us to like render out a blog based on a specific ID. So if we go to our application and we just type in the URL, if we go to /blog/3, it says blog with ID 3. But how can we add a link that will actually link to our third blog post? Well, let's come back to the homepage here. The way we can do this is by adding a params prop to our link. So let's go back to our VS Code. Let's go to our homepage, and I'm going to do Option Shift down arrow here once again. And then we're going to go to blog 3. And for our to path, we're going to go to /blog. But then we're going to add a params prop that is going to be an object. And I forget what it needs to be. So it should have a param here that points to a value. So in our case, the param that we're looking for is blog ID. So that's what we need to set here. So we need to set blog ID, and then we will go to number 3. So assuming I didn't do anything incorrectly here, clicking this link should take us to blog 3. So let's come back. We see go to blog 3, and then we get a not found, because what I forgot to do is I actually need to, it shouldn't just be /blog here. It should be /blog $blog ID is what it actually should be. And then if I come back to our homepage here, because I don't actually have a blog page made, and now I click on it, it does indeed link to blog with ID 3. So make sure in your to path, it should match your dynamic path here. So blog $blog ID is this dynamic path here. And then we add the param of blog ID 3. If we want to link to blog number 4, we would just switch that param to value of 4. And then we come back here, go to our homepage again, click go to blog 4, and you see it links to blog number 4 here. So that's how you can do dynamic linking as well as just kind of standard linking with TanStack. And there's definitely more stuff you can do here with the link component. Like there's relative paths that you can use instead of the absolute paths that we were using. You can also add search params. So very similar to what we did earlier, we set a params property, right? Let me make sure. Yeah, we set a params prop. But if you want to do like search params, you add a search prop and then you can add a query of whatever value you want. So very similar to what we did earlier. And then you can do a whole bunch of different things. You can link to certain sections of your page by adding a hash prop. You can adjust the active and inactive props, just like you can with most kind of different routers. And you can even do stuff like preloading, which is right here. So you can preload when they hover over the link. So you would preload this path here when they hover over this link. So if it is lazy loading, you can do something like this, which is a very cool feature that is often supported by other kind of routing systems as well. But for kind of some of those more advanced use cases, I'm sure like it's very straightforward to implement here. So I'm sure that you can figure that out using the docs after understanding just basically how the link works overall. So that's kind of as deep as I'm going to go with this link component, but just know that there are quite a bit of different things that you can do here. So if you're looking for link preloading or search params and stuff like that, consult the docs here, and it's usually as easy as just adding a prop to that component that you're using. So now let's go to the useNavigate hook, and here it just gives like another warning that basically you want to use a link component as much as possible instead of using the useNavigate hook. But in case you do need to use the useNavigate hook, it is pretty straightforward here to where you basically call this useNavigate hook and then you call the navigate function returned from this hook and you pass in the like path as well as the params that you want to link to. Maybe from this blog page, we'll add a link back to our homepage, let's say. So I'm going to say const navigate is equal to use navigate, and then we'll just call that import useNavigate from React Router. And then let's add a button here. It says go home. And then when the user clicks on this button, we'll add an onClick. And then that's going to be a function that is going to call the navigate function returned from useNavigate. And I think I can just pass. Let me just try to pass just a single path here without the to prop. And I'm going to see what it does. I think this might be an error, but let's just see if I can pass a home slash here and see what it does. Because I actually haven't tried that before. So let's refresh this. Let's go to blog 4. Let's try to go home. And yeah, it actually does nothing. It just adds a slash to the URL. So we don't want that. Whoops. We don't want that. But let's go ahead and if I go remove this and add an object as to set to an empty string, and then I refresh this, and then I click go home, it does indeed go home. So in most cases, you probably are going to want to add a object to the navigate function to specify where you want to link to. So here, going home, links here. Let's go back. Say I want to link to settings. I'll switch that to /settings. And it still says go home, but you get the gist. We'll actually go to settings, but we'll switch this back to just being a home route. And then maybe from our settings page, maybe we'll navigate to a dynamic blog. So we'll also do const navigate is equal to use navigate, call this function. Let's add another button here. And then let's say blog 6. So a dynamic blog here. And then I'll say on click is equal to pass a function. And then we will navigate And then we should pass an object with a to prop that says /blog $blog ID. Then we need to pass a params that is going to be an object, I believe, that has blog, and it should be blog, not blog. And then this should be blog ID of, what did I say? Number 6. So I think this should link us to the dynamic blog page of blog number 6. So it says blog 6. We click on it and it links to a blog with ID number 6. This links us home, and wow, look at us go. We have so good of navigation going on throughout our component here. So that's how you can programmatically navigate using the useNavigate hook. And this is very similar to like React.router DOM or other kind of frameworks as well. Now, you also get a navigate component where you can basically just return a component and this will immediately navigate the user. So let's go ahead and from our page here, we don't have any navigation from our about page. So let's, how should we do this here? Well, actually, let's make this dynamic. So let's go back to our homepage, and how about like, if we try to go to a blog where the number is greater than 10, then it automatically redirects them back to, I don't know, the about page. That doesn't make any sense, but we don't need to make sense because we're just showing an example. So let's go ahead and say from this blog page, we're going to remove this here. I guess I really didn't need to do that, but let's say if the blog ID is greater than 10, then let's just return, which is effectively going to re-navigate them, a navigate component imported from TanStack router, and we can get rid of useNavigate here. Let's return a navigate component in which I think I just need to do a to prop, and let's actually go to the settings page because we don't have any navigation set up on the about page. So theoretically, if this blog ID is greater than 10, you could see an example to where maybe like, I don't know, if a user is not logged in, you just return this navigate to basically do a redirect. So let's go back, and blog ID number 4 is fine, but let's try to just in our URL here, do blog 11. And you see, we are actually redirected back to our settings page. And I go to blog 6, that's totally fine. Blog 9, that's totally fine. If I go to try to do blog 12, it should redirect back to settings. And you do see it does indeed redirect us back to the settings page. So you can also use a component to perform navigation. Now, you can see here, you can also do dynamic stuff here by passing a params prop, but I think that's straightforward enough to where we don't need to show that right now. So in TanStack, it basically gives you these ways. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you have router.navigate, but it's, as it says here, it's the same method as the navigate function returned by useNavigate, and it accepts the same interface. So this will work just the same. It's just accessed anywhere in your application, including outside of your framework. So you can use this where you might not be able to use the useNavigate hook, because that's going to have to be called within a React component because it's going to have to abide by the rules of hooks. So those are kind of the basic ways to navigate in React. Really, for most frameworks, you're going to have some sort of component to do redirects or to perform navigation. You're going to have some way to do programmatic navigation, like with a useNavigate hook. And you're also going to have like an out-of-the-box link that you're going to be able to use. And that's kind of the TLDR on how all of that works within TanStack. So I hope you found this video helpful. You know, when it comes to this link component here, just know that there is quite a bit of stuff that you can do. And I just want you to be aware of the stuff that you can do, but I'm sure you can figure it out here with the docs. But if there's something specific you want me to show, feel free to let me know in the comments below. But thanks for tuning into this, and I'll catch you in that next one.